One thing I'm going to do here before I start on the other side is I'm going to actually mount this back up to the backing plate just to keep from losing parts, keep stuff out of the way. So make sure that this tongue goes in the groove here on the wheel cylinder. Put this thing back through really the only hole that's in the back of the backing plate over here. And if you want to, you can actually put that through first. You can see that's the hole that it goes through. It's the only one on this side that goes through the backing plate. Okay. Make sure the bottom of that shoe stays on the right side of this bracket down here. Okay, so now hold that thing on with your finger. Slide that part up and over it. Now the tricky part, especially if you haven't done this before or if you have needle nose like I do, is getting this back on. Okay, it's the key here is to firmly grip with your needle nose. Squeeze it as hard as you can. Okay, and then give it a turn. Holding that pin with this finger to keep the pin from rotating is an absolute key to retaining your sanity when putting these things on. Okay, if you're using both hands and you're just pushing and you're turning, that pin is just going to spin and spin and spin, and you're never going to be able to get that spring on there the way you want it. Okay, so on this side, pretty much the same thing. We're going to take this thing off using the same process as before. But up here, I think up here, well, let's see, down here is where the parking brake cable attaches to this bracket. On the new one, you can see it's going to attach down here on this bracket. So when you pull that parking brake cable, it pulls this thing, which pushes this brake shoe out against the brake drum, and that's what keeps your car from rolling. Okay? So again, put your finger on the back side of this thing, keep that pin from turning. Get a good grip on your needle nose, a good squeeze, turn it 90 degrees, and then that thing just comes right off. Push that pin out. Okay, and then that part's assembled, and then this thing is gonna hang by the parking brake cable. And then this is a process of we need to slide this cable up and out of this notch here, which I believe is another spring type thing. It is. Hopefully yours is freed up. This one's not too bad. You just pull it up and then you can pull that thing out of that notch just like so. Okay. And just like we did on the other side, you always want to line these things up, make sure they're the same. If you see here, this new one has an L on it, stating it's for the left side, the driver's side. The old one has an L on it. So make sure that you're not trying to put the one that has the R on it. And you may get a set of brake shoes. So these are actual Toyota replacement. Comes with this parking brake lever on it. You may buy shoes that do not have this pre-installed, and you might have to take it off of the old one. And on this one, you can see up here, this horseshoe looking pin, you'd have to spread this apart up here where it's purple. Spread that apart, pop that keeper off, and then that pin would just pop out, letting that bracket come off, and then you would transfer that over to the new brake shoe. Kind of surprised, maybe I shouldn't be since these are Toyota factory brake shoes, but I was kind of surprised to see that it actually came with it on these shoes. So that saves you some time. You can, and I guess that's when you pay a little more for the factory stuff. These are $44 for these shoes. Found them on Amazon, and you could get replacement shoes at AutoZone or O'Reilly for maybe $15, but I'm thinking they probably wouldn't have these brackets pre-installed for the parking brake. I could be wrong. Slide this sucker back on here. Easier said than done. Should be able to just pull this into position. There we go, just like that. Okay, and now that's caught in here. Okay, that's what we want there. So now we're just going to line that thing up in its grooves up top here on the wheel cylinder. Make sure it's behind this bracket here on the bottom. And we're going to put this thing through the backing plate. It's going to go through the hole. And now we're starting to make real progress. Push, rotate, and profit. So now we only have really a couple of parts left. We're going to put this bad boy back into position, put that bottom spring on, and adjust it to meet the brake drum. And then we'll be done with one side, and you will be very happy you decided to do this yourself. This is probably the hardest part. Slide that thing down around there. Gotta get the front of this spring out. Okay, get that side and this side to where they need to be. May have to pull this shoe back. You probably will have to pull that shoe back. Okay, remember as you're putting the adjuster back on, it is super important to get it oriented the right way. Okay, remember to, before you get too far, once you kind of get these things oriented in the notches, hook up this side of this brake spring, and you're going to take your channel locks and pull this side of the spring all the way into this hole back here. Firmly grip these suckers. That spring, as soon as you start getting it close to that hole, it's going to jump out of the jaws every single time, unless you have a really firm grip on it. You may even want to use vice grips. And then once you get that set in there, you put this lower spring on the bottom, and then we'll pretty much be set on this side. Okay, and I know you didn't actually get to see the spring go back into this hole, but trust me, there was no magic. I didn't do anything other than use these channel locks, and you grab this part of the spring here, and then you kind of got to roll it up a little bit in order to get that curved part of the spring to go up inside that hole. Okay, so I know, like, it's hard to explain. You just have to use good grip, you have to roll it up a little bit, and you have to guide it into that hole on this side, all while trying to make sure that nothing comes out of place on this adjustment part. You know, your wheel cylinder grooves, everything stays in the grooves on the wheel cylinder. This whole assembly, it's going to slide back and forth on you, okay, as you're doing this. These shoes, they're going to jump out of the track. They're going to want to sit on this side of the thing. You're going to be like, oh, I'm never going to get this back together. You will. If you have somebody else to help you, they can just kind of hold this together while you're taking that spring and you're getting it into that hole. This is the hardest part, all right? Don't lose hope here. You can get it back together. As long as you have these two springs in place, these shoes they're not going to come off. Okay, that's why we put them on first. You can try, if you're having a whole lot of trouble, you can try to put this part in first. In my experience, that has not gone well. Okay, if I put these in first, then that gives me what I need as far as slack. These shoes can move, and I can get this stuff into position, and I can get it on there. All right, so you'll know you have it right if when you go to adjust this thing, you hear the clicking of that retainer piece back here. If it's doing its job, okay? So let's just adjust a little bit. Okay, we've got her in position, and if I try to go down, I can't, it's locked. Okay, and then this part of the adjuster here, it's pushing on the pad. This part of the adjuster here is pushing on the pad, or the brake shoe I should say, and then we just need to put this spring on the bottom.